So I was able to go to a film festival for the very first time this last weekend, and I went in completely blind to the film that I'm here to report on. And I gotta say, it's an amazing movie that you guys should definitely seek out when it hits streaming or any theater near you. Welcome back to Almost Sideways. My name is Adam, and I am reporting on a film called Bang Bang, starring Tim Blake Nelson, and an actor that we have seen in bit parts here and there, but never really getting that opportunity to be a leading man and putting his main talents on display. He's been a leading man, I believe, in a handful of films, but I believe personally this is my first film that I've seen him really step out, get that opportunity to be a leading actor in the film. And I gotta say, the opportunity that Vincent Grashaw, the director of this film, gave Tim Blake Nelson, he seems like he's been doing it for years. He bled into this performance here, and one of my personal favorite performances of 2024. Tim Blake Nelson plays a boxer named Bang Bang Rosowski, and a guy who has notoriety in the city of Detroit. He feels like he was wronged by a fight long in his past from a person who is running for mayor in the city, played by Glenn Plummer. And what's awesome about Glenn Plummer, he was actually there on Vashon giving a Q&A right after the movie. And so before I share what my thoughts of the film are, what I liked about it, I want to shout out this film festival here. It's on the island up here in the Pacific Northwest called Vashon Island, and it's their film festival. There's no bridge really to get over to it. You have to take a ferry. So my wife and I woke up early. We got in line and we went over to the ferry and sat on the deck, and we really enjoyed the experience. I've been over to Vashon several times with my work, but my wife was her first time going over there, so it was really fun to go to the different shops and kind of go shopping before our show time, because we wanted to get there a little early just in case there were some crowds. Now, it's not a very popular film festival, mind you, but it's still really cool to see a film pop up in this festival that only has 29 votes on IMDb at this current time of recording. So that's pretty damn awesome. And not knowing anything about the movie, I think it's also really cool and exciting to see something that not many people have the opportunity at this moment to actually witness and experience. And there's only probably maybe like less than 30 people in attendance at the film festival, or at least for the screening for this film. But still, there was some jitters, and so I was nervous. I was kind of excited to see what's happening. They had a really cool open setting out there, and at the end you can actually vote on who the acting prizes are, the audience award, and stuff like that too, which was kind of typical for other film festivals from my understanding. So it was kind of cool to experience that, and seeing everybody kind of buzzed about the previous film, which was a documentary from the Ukraine called The Porcelain War. So people were chatting after the screening about that and chit-chatting, which was a really cool experience. So when we finally got seated, we got some popcorn and we got seated for our showing. 2:15 comes around and the movie still hasn't started yet, and we're like, oh no, what's going on? And 2:20 comes and said, hey, we're having a problem uploading the film to the computer or something like that, so we're gonna put something else on for you. And the movie they put on was Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. So that was Beyond the Spider-Verse. And so that was pretty cool. Seeing that first animated Spider-Man movie was fun to see it. We watched about an hour of it before our showtime actually started. So there was even more anticipation to seeing what Bang Bang was truly about. And when you jump right into this movie, you see a fully fledged, chaotic performance from Tim Blake Nelson. He's doing some fake punches. He's doing these fake punches and kind of dancing around his living room in his underwear. The dialogue is really quick and witty and really funny, and the audience, which skewed a little older than me and my wife, they were on board for it. We were laughing quite a bit at the first half of the film. It was actually really funny, dialogue heavy, and seeing Tim Blake Nelson in this role as this boxer, it was really cool because he is down. He's pretty skinny for the role. Not quite Christian Bale in The Machinist, mind you, but he is, staying at fighting weight. He says that a couple times, and you do see him actually throw up food as well in the movie to stay at that fighting length, because he weighs himself. He's like, oh, I'm over my poundage, so he throws it up, and you see him do a lot of cocaine in this movie and drinking. And he eats these ketchup sandwiches because he's like, I lived off these things. This is how I made weight, is staying with these ketchup sandwiches. This movie also stars, obviously I mentioned Glenn Plummer before, but Andrew Liner, who plays his grandson. Because in the film, his daughter comes around and basically said, hey, I need you to watch my grandson. And what, Tim Blake Nelson sees in his grandson is that, hey, this guy's a really good boxer, and I can't personally go fight this upcoming mayor candidate, Glenn Plummer here. I can at least get my grandson to maybe to go humiliate one of his prize fighters too. So it kind of starts training him, and there's some interesting boxing training montages here too. Not quite Rocky or Creed levels, or even Southpaw or Raging Bull, stuff like that, but it's really low key. Kind of dirty and grimy Detroit level kind of boxing there. But of course, we also need another trainer. So of course, we have Bang Bang Rakowski in one corner, and then we have Kevin Corrigan as the other actor, another actor, one of our podcast favorite here. He plays John Eaton, who is a good friend to Bang Bang, and they kind of drunkenly help train Justin, the grandson, here in this movie. There's only one really fight scene in this movie, and it ends kind of abruptly in kind of a weird way that you would think, because it's not really a boxing movie. It's about righting the wrongs and kind of having not just the physical trauma of the boxing life, but what happens to the boxers afterward, after they're done with their prime, and kind of what happens to them as well. There's a deeper meaning to it without the closing message as well. There's an intense scene that actually was one of the first scenes filmed for this movie, with Glenn Plummer and Tim Blake Nelson actually on set together. There was a great kind of battle of wits between the rights and the wrongs of their past, and trying to inevitably gets to this fisticuff type of thing at the very final climax. And it's very interesting to hear how that was one of the first scenes made, and it was actually a really powerful scene at the very end of the movie. But the movie, when you do watch it, it's clearly a Tim Blake Nelson acting clinic here. He does a lot of crazy things that you're like, man, this guy is nuts. He's a very eccentric actor for this, and I absolutely was all on board for it. There's another really great performance here too. Nina Arianda plays Jen, who is Tim Blake Nelson's daughter here. She has some couple moments here where she is an amazing supporting performance here as well. I really liked a lot of the intense moments, the back and forth battle of wits between Bang Bang and his daughter here. She is totally matching his same energy. He's not giving a shit about what's going on, the bullshit that her father might sling or not sling. He's like, no, you're going to spend time with your grandson. What the hell are you training him in boxing? And just basically giving him reading him the riot act. And it's justified. There were some really awesome things here. And some cool, really good witty dialogue from Will Janowitz, who I don't think I've seen anything of his. But he's a pretty funny writer and talented, with really quick dialogue as well. Some fast-paced dialogue, I should say, too. I really liked the performances here, and I wanted, some more boxing. Again, I knew it had some boxing elements, but I didn't know too much about it. And this is really not a boxing movie. This is, what happens after boxing. Happens with the way the toll your body takes from this boxing, from the actions of and the head trauma that comes with the boxing, and kind of the life after the sport and after the popularity, and kind of the outcomes that do come from it, and kind of moving on from the sins of your past as well. There's some deeper layers and deeper performances from it, but you're really looking at Tim Blake Nelson here. Definitely somebody I'm going to be voting for the Pinos this year, but there's some really great things, understated things about this movie. Glenn Plummer was in attendance afterward, and there was a really great Q&A that he did talking about his career, because he was in a bunch of different movies, from Speed, he played in some Catherine Bigelow movies, he played with Roland Emmerich with The Day After Tomorrow. And of course, I wanted to ask him a lot of questions about some of those awesome movies he's been in, but of course the one I wanted to ask was from a franchise movie of Saw 2. He was in there. He was one of the more interesting characters that did die in the movie, and he brought up that in his Q&A he brought up several things about in horror films the black guy usually does die, so he tries to kind of break stereotypes and try to put his little input in different things. And Saw 2, he was one of the first ones to die. He was one of the last people to die in that movie. He shared a lot of funny stories between certain directors, because the director of Funny Farm, for instance, I'll share this story that he shared. While making Funny Farm, the director of that film, he would take a glass of whiskey, which is about 8 ounces, and drink it. And depending on how he felt after drinking that, he would say, okay, we're done filming for the day, or we're going to continue filming. And this was like every day at 4 o'clock, he said. So that shoot kind of lasted a lot longer than it should have. But he loved working on making that movie. He currently isn't a big Hollywood actor. He likes staying with the independent movies because he has a little more freedom doing those movies, and he doesn't like the Hollywood system, which is understandable, and I totally understand. So when he got this script and he saw Tim Blake Nelson was attached to it, he immediately signed up for it, which was really cool. It says a lot about Tim Blake Nelson that he wanted to work with him, and of course his performance definitely shines. Glenn Plummer here is really good too, but not something, he doesn't have a whole lot of scenes, but the ending scene with him and Bang Bang at the very end, definitely a great scene. But anyway, without further ado, this is the clip. This is the question I did ask about his death scene from Saw 2, and he does have some really interesting insight in not just how he prepared for that scene, but some other he shares a Robert Duvall story too, so take a listen.
Obviously, you've been in a lot of other movies and big franchises, and being a horror fan myself, you were in Saw 2. And when you didn't die first, but you were one of the more interesting characters in it. How do you prepare for like a death scene, and how is that kind of stuff filmed?
How did I prepare for that death scene?
Saw 2.
Yeah. That's an interesting. That's a good question, and I'm glad you asked. I was like a politician. That's a good question. I'm glad you asked me. Anyway, how did I prepare for that death scene? So honestly, for me, it's always the moment. It's always on the word. It's always where I am and what's going on. And so, what I know about head trauma, what I know about spinal injuries, there's not a lot of planning. There's not a lot of things you can do. There's when trauma happens to the spine, people drop, or they kind of just fall apart immediately. They lose control of their legs. They lose feeling throughout their whole body, or it's concussion, or it's brain damage, or whatever. And I kind of just took it all the way to the end. And this is funny, but no, seriously, because the moment that happened, I wanted to ask myself what happened, right? Yeah. That's what I wanted to ask myself. When I got hit, I wanted to say, what happened? What just happened? But I realized that if I got hit and a nail went into my spine and went into the back of my head, it would never come out. So I just went, and I know that sounds hysterical. It just kind of, but it worked. Right?
Yeah, it did. It was good.
Robert De Niro, no, not Robert De Niro, about Al Pacino. Is it Al Pacino? Yeah, Al Pacino and Laurence Olivier, they had a conversation about Richard III. And Al Pacino would show up, when he did Richard III, he would show up 3 hours before time, and concentrate and get into it and do this whole thing with his leg, because Richard III had a limp. If you guys know anything about Shakespeare, I'm talking a lot. This is what I love to do. And so he's doing this, and then he had a conversation with Laurence Olivier about the same thing, or a master's class asked Laurence Olivier, how did he prepare? And Laurence Olivier said, I tied a board to my leg. Right?
Yeah.
Dustin Hoffman in Marathon Man would show up, run, just run and run. And before he had to work, and Laurence Olivier, you ever tried acting? Yeah. So, yeah, anyway.
There we go.
All right, so that's my thoughts on Bang Bang. I do give it this 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed the film quite a bit. I'm probably going to be a lot higher, and I think part of it is because of the film experience and going to the film festival for the first time definitely enhanced that vision for it, but it's something I haven't stopped thinking about. I just saw this last weekend, and I haven't stopped really thinking about it since. It's definitely one of my favorite performances. A lot of great little comedic lines here and there too, so definitely go watch Bang Bang. There's some really when you do get a chance to see it, I think it's a really good indie film that definitely needs some support, especially when it only has 29 votes on IMDb at this moment. And if we learned anything from the Sam Dunning interview, which is going to be on the YouTube channel that Terry and Todd did, IMDb votes are what they really look at, not Rotten Tomatoes. IMDb is what distributors are looking forward to distribute the movie and get that movie out there for more people to see. So go vote on IMDb to get these small movies out there for people to put in the libraries and let them decide what to watch next. So anyway, that's my quick review and thoughts on Bang Bang, and sharing some video of my question that I did ask. That was an awesome experience talking to him, and he was right there. He was taking some photos, and we needed to leave to catch the ferry, but I was like, man, I should have just kind of shook his hand and asked him to say, can you say Almost Sideways really quick into my phone, please? That'd be awesome. But time eluded me, but maybe sometime in the future we'll get something like that on the podcast. But anyway, till next time, go watch another movie, check out Bang Bang, and go watch it.